The red dust of Mars swirled outside the thick glass windows of Outpost Zeta 7. Inside the small research station, Staff Sergeant Maria Santos checked her watch for the 10th time that morning. Today was supposed to be different. Today, humans would meet with aliens for the first time in a formal diplomatic setting. Maria had been stationed at this remote outpost for 8 months now. Life here was quiet, almost boring. Her job was simple: keep the peace, protect the scientists, and make sure nothing bad happened to the important people who visited. She never thought she would be part of history in the making. The outpost was buzzing with nervous energy. Dr. Elena Vasquez, one of the top scientists, kept pacing back and forth in the main corridor. She had been studying alien biology for years, but only from samples and data. Today she would meet them face to face. They should be here any minute, Elena said, wiping sweat from her forehead despite the cool air conditioning. Maria nodded and adjusted her uniform. She had seen the pictures and videos, but she wondered what these Kethra aliens would really be like in person. They looked almost human, but taller and stronger. Their skin had a tough, armor-like quality that reminded her of insects, but in a strangely beautiful way. The communication system crackled to life. Incoming vessel detected. Landing in Bay 3 in approximately 10 minutes. Maria's heart started beating faster. She gathered her small team of soldiers and headed to the landing bay. Their job was to provide security, but also to show respect to their alien guests. This meeting could determine if humans and aliens would become friends or enemies. The massive doors of the landing bay slowly opened, and a sleek alien ship descended through the thin Martian atmosphere. It was unlike anything Maria had ever seen, smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to shimmer like living metal. The ship landed with barely a sound as the ship's door opened. 5 figures emerged. The leader was clearly Commander Sci-Fi, the alien warrior they had been told about. He stood nearly 7 feet tall, his dark blue skin gleaming under the artificial lights. His movements were graceful yet powerful, like a trained dancer who could also be a deadly fighter. What struck Maria most was his eyes. They were larger than human eyes, a deep amber color that seemed to hold intelligence and wisdom. When he looked at her, she felt like he was seeing right into her soul. "Greetings," Commander Sci-Fi said in perfect English, his voice deep and resonant. "I am honored to meet with the humans of this outpost." The formal ceremonies began in the main conference room. Representatives from Earth had traveled millions of miles for this moment. The discussions were about mining rights in the asteroid belt, something that could benefit both species if they could learn to work together. Maria stood guard near the entrance, but she found herself listening to every word. The aliens spoke about honor and cooperation. They seemed genuine in their desire for peace. Commander Sci-Fi, in particular, showed great respect for human achievements and culture. Hours passed smoothly. The talks were going better than anyone had hoped. Then everything changed in an instant. The lights suddenly went out. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red light. Alarms started blaring throughout the outpost. Maria's training took over immediately. "Everyone stay calm," she shouted, drawing her weapon and moving to protect the diplomats. Through the corridors came the sound of running feet and shouting voices. But these weren't the voices of her fellow soldiers. These were intruders. Maria realized with horror that someone had planned an attack. During the most important diplomatic meeting in human history, the attackers burst into the conference room wearing black masks and carrying strange weapons Maria had never seen before. They were human, but they screamed things about aliens being evil and humans being the only species that mattered. "No aliens on human worlds," one of them yelled, raising a device that sparked with electrical energy. Maria moved quickly, but Commander Sci-Fi was faster. The alien warrior immediately positioned himself between the attackers and a group of human civilians who had frozen in terror. His protective instincts were immediate and selfless. The attackers fired their weapons. Strange blue energy bolts shot across the room. Maria realized these weapons were designed specifically to hurt the Kethra aliens. Someone had planned this attack very carefully. Commander Sci-Fi absorbed it after hit from the alien specific weapons, but he never moved away from the humans he was protecting. His large body shielded 3 scientists and a diplomat from certain harm. Maria fought back against the attackers. With everything she had, her team responded quickly, and within minutes they had driven off the intruders. But the damage was already done. When the smoke cleared and the emergency lights stopped flashing, Maria saw Commander Sci-Fi lying motionless on the floor. His eyes were open and aware, but his body was completely still. "Commander," she called out, kneeling beside him. "I can hear you," he said softly, his voice strained. "But I cannot move anything below my neck." Dr. Vasquez rushed over with her medical equipment, but her face went pale as she examined the alien warrior. The neural disruptor weapons, they've completely severed the connection between his brain and his body. The full horror of the situation became clear. Commander Sci-Fi had sacrificed his mobility, possibly his life, to save humans he had just met. Now he lay paralyzed, dependent on others for his very survival. "Will he recover?" Maria asked. Though she feared the answer, Elena shook her head grimly. "I don't know enough about their biology. Without proper medical treatment from his own people, his enhanced physiology might start shutting down completely." Maria looked down at the brave alien who had risked everything for strangers. She made a silent promise that somehow she would find a way to help him. She had no idea that this moment would test everything she believed about duty, loyalty, and what it truly meant to be human. The next morning, Maria woke up hoping yesterday had been a nightmare. But when she walked into the medical bay, Commander Sci-Fi was still there, lying motionless on the bed. His amber eyes followed her as she entered, the only part of his body he could still control. "Good morning, Maria," he said quietly. His voice was weaker than before. "How are you feeling?" she asked, knowing it was probably a stupid question. Like a warrior who can no longer be a warrior, he replied with what might have been a sad smile. Maria had barely slept. She had spent most of the night researching everything she could find about Kethra biology and medicine. What she learned made her stomach turn. Without proper treatment, Commander Sci-Fi would die within days as his enhanced body systems began failing. She marched straight to Dr. Harrison Webb's office. Dr. Webb was the chief medical officer at the outpost, a man with 20 years of experience treating every kind of injury and illness. Surely he would know what to do. "Doctor, we need to discuss Commander Sci-Fi's treatment options," Maria said as she entered his office. Dr. Webb looked up from his paperwork with an annoyed expression. "Sergeant, I've already told the command staff. I'm a human doctor. I treat human patients. I have no training in alien biology, and I'm not about to start experimenting on some creature I don't understand." "Creature?" Maria felt her anger rising. "Sir, that creature saved human lives yesterday. 3 of our people would be dead if not for his sacrifice. That's unfortunate," Dr. Webb said coldly. "But it doesn't change the fact that I'm not qualified to treat non-human patients. My medical license specifically covers human medicine only." Maria couldn't believe what she was hearing. "So you're just going to let him die?" "I'm going to focus on the humans under my care, as I'm supposed to," Dr. Webb replied, returning to his paperwork. "That thing made its choice yesterday. Now it has to live with the consequences." Frustrated and angry, Maria went to see Colonel James Mitchell, the base commander. Surely someone with his authority and experience would see reason. Colonel Mitchell listened to her request with a stone face. When she finished explaining the situation, he leaned back in his chair and shook his head. "Sergeant Santos, I understand your concern, but we have bigger issues to consider here. Bringing an alien medical specialist would require opening our communications with the Kethra fleet. That could compromise outpost security. Sir, we're talking about saving the life of someone who risked everything for us," Maria argued. "We're talking about risking human lives for one alien," the colonel said firmly. "My responsibility is to the humans on this base, not to our visitors." The answer is no. Maria felt like she was hitting her head against a wall. "But sir, this could destroy any chance we have of building a relationship with the Kethra people." "Maybe. That's for the best, Colonel Mitchell said. Yesterday's attack shows that not everyone thinks this alien alliance is a good idea. Perhaps we should reconsider the entire program. That afternoon, things got even worse. A priority message came in from Earth Command. Admiral Patricia Hayes herself appeared on the main screen, her face grim and official. Attention Outpost Zeta 7. The Admiral announced, due to yesterday's security breach, all communication with Kethra vessels is hereby suspended. New protocols are now in effect. Human security takes priority over all other considerations. Any violation of these orders will be considered treason. Maria felt her heart sink. Even if she wanted to contact the Kethra medical team, she was now forbidden from doing so. But maybe the Kethra themselves would demand to help their commander. That evening, Maria made a decision that could end her military career. She quietly accessed the communication system and sent a coded message to the Kethra ship still orbiting Mars. She explained Commander Scifi's condition and begged for medical assistance. The response came back within an hour, and it was worse than anything she could have imagined. High Commander Velthar appeared on the screen, his face showing no emotion. "Human soldier," he said in his deep voice, "we have received your message about Commander Sci-Fi." "Thank goodness," Maria said. "When can your medical team arrive?" "They will not arrive," Velthar replied coldly. "Among the Kethra, a warrior who cannot fight has no honor. A warrior who cannot stand has no place among the living." Commander Sci-Fi knew this when he chose his actions yesterday. Maria stared at the screen in disbelief. "You're abandoning him?" "We are honoring him by not prolonging his shame," Velthar said. "A true Kethra warrior would prefer death to helplessness. Do not contact us again about this matter." The communication ended, leaving Maria alone in the dark room. She had never felt so helpless in her life. The humans wouldn't help because they didn't care enough. The aliens wouldn't help because they cared too much about their twisted sense of honor. She walked back to the medical bay where Commander Sci-Fi lay in the dim lighting. His enhanced hearing meant he had probably heard every conversation, every refusal, every cruel dismissal of his life. "I heard," he said softly when she entered. "Both your people and mine have made their positions clear." "I'm not giving up," Maria said, surprised by the determination in her own voice. "Why?" Sci-Fi asked. "You barely know me, your career, your future, all of it could be destroyed by helping me. Why would you risk so much for someone who is already lost?" Maria thought about his question. She looked at this brave being who had thrown himself in harm's way to protect strangers, who now lay paralyzed and abandoned by everyone who should have cared about him. "Because yesterday you showed me what real courage looks like," she said. "You didn't think about politics or species or protocol. You saw people in danger and you acted. Now everyone is thinking about everything except doing what's right." "And what do you think is right?" he asked. "Saving the life of a hero," Maria replied. "No matter what it costs me." For the first time since the attack, Commander Scifi's eyes showed something other than resignation. They showed hope. Maria spent the entire night in the outpost's computer lab, reading everything she could find about Kethra biology. Most of the information was classified, but her security clearance gave her access to files that few humans had ever seen. What she discovered gave her the first real hope she had felt since the attack. The Kethra didn't just have advanced biology. They had something called bioenhancement technology. Their bodies contained tiny living organisms that could repair damage, including nerve damage. The problem was that the neural disruptor weapons had confused these organisms. Instead of healing Commander Sci-Fi, they were slowly shutting down his entire system. But according to the files, there was a way to reset them, a process that required special equipment, and someone who understood both human and Kethra technology. "This is incredible," said a voice behind her. Maria spun round to see Dr. Elena Vasquez standing in the doorway. Her heart pounded. She had been caught accessing classified files. "Dr. Vasquez, I can explain," Maria began. "You don't need to explain anything," Elena said, moving closer to the screen. "I've been doing the same research. I've been studying Kethra biotechnology for months." Against direct orders, Maria stared at her. Why? Because they're medical. Technology could revolutionize human medicine, Elena said excitedly. The things they can do with biological enhancement. We could cure diseases that have plagued humanity for centuries. Can you help him? Maria asked directly. Elena looked at the data on the screen, then back at Maria. Maybe. But it would require equipment from his ship, and we'd have to transport him there without anyone knowing. It's incredibly dangerous, and if we're caught, we'll be court-martialed for treason. Maria finished. I know. There's something else, Elena said grimly, according to this data. His condition is getting worse faster than I thought. We have maybe 18 hours before the bioenhancement systems fail completely. Maria felt the weight of time pressing down on her. 18 hours to plan and execute a rescue mission while avoiding security, accessing alien technology, and performing a medical procedure that had never been attempted before. We'll need help. Maria said, we can't do this alone. Who would be willing to risk everything for an alien they barely know? Elena asked. Maria thought about her fellow soldiers. Most of them followed orders without question, but there were a few who had been moved by Commander Scifi's sacrifice. She found Corporal James Kim in the mess hall, eating breakfast alone. He was young, idealistic, and had joined the military to protect innocent people. Yesterday, he had been one of the first responders when the attack happened. Kim, Maria said, sitting down across from him. I need to ask you something, and you can say no without any consequences. What is it, Sergeant? He asked. How do you feel about what happened to Commander Sci-Fi? Kim put down his fork and looked around to make sure no one was listening. Honestly, I think it's wrong. He saved our people, and we're just letting him die. It goes against everything I thought the military stood for. What if I told you there was a way to help him, but it would mean disobeying direct orders? Kim was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked Maria straight in the eyes. I joined the army to protect innocent people, Sergeant. Sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules. Maria found Private Chen in the motor pool, working on a transport vehicle. Chen was quiet and thoughtful, but she had seen the young woman's face during yesterday's attack. There had been real anger there when Commander Sci-Fi was hurt. Chen, Maria said, I need to know where you stand on something. If it's about the alien commander, I think what's happening is disgusting, Chen said without looking up from her work. My grandmother always taught me that you judge people by their actions, not by what they look like or where they come from. That alien has more honor than half the humans on this base. Would you be willing to help save his life? Maria asked. Chen finally looked up, her young face serious. What did you have in mind? Within 2 hours, Maria had assembled her team. Dr. Vasquez would handle the medical aspects. Corporal Kim would help with security and transport. Private Chen would use her technical skills to bypass electronic locks and systems. But there was one major problem they hadn't solved yet. How to get Commander Sci-Fi from the medical bay to his ship without being detected. The alien warrior weighed over 300 pounds and couldn't move at all. Carrying him through the outpost corridors would be nearly impossible without being seen. We need a distraction, Kim suggested. Something big enough to draw security. Away from our route. What about the maintenance tunnels? Chen asked. They run under the entire outpost. We could use a transport car to move him. Those tunnels are barely big enough for one person, Elena pointed out. Not all of them, Chen said with a slight smile. There's a main utility corridor that runs from the medical bay to the docking area. It's used for moving large equipment. I helped install some systems down there last month. Maria felt a spark of hope. Can you get us access without triggering security alerts? Give me 30 minutes, Chen said confidently, as her team prepared. For the most dangerous mission of their lives, Maria made one final visit to Commander Sci-Fi. She needed to tell him what they were planning, in case something went wrong. Commander, she said quietly, we're going to get you to your ship tonight. Dr. Vasquez thinks she can use your regeneration technology to heal your paralysis. Sci-Fi's amber eyes showed surprise, then concern. Maria, the risk to you and your people is too great. I cannot ask you to sacrifice your futures for me. You're not asking, Maria said firmly. We're offering. Yesterday you showed us what it means to put others before yourself. Today, we're returning the favor. If you are discovered, your military leaders will show no mercy, Sci-Fi warned. Then we won't get caught, Maria said with more confidence than she felt as evening approached. Maria's team made their final preparations. Each person knew their role, understood the risks, and had made peace with the possible consequences. They were about to attempt something that had never been done before, not just saving an alien life, but proving that courage and compassion could overcome fear and prejudice. The rescue mission was about to begin. At exactly midnight, Maria's team began the most dangerous mission of their lives. The outpost corridors were dimly lit, with only emergency lighting casting long shadows on the walls. Every sound seemed amplified in the quiet, their footsteps, their breathing, even the soft hum of the life support systems. Dr. Elena Vasquez had prepared a special stretcher with built-in life support equipment. Commander Sci-Fi lay unconscious, his breathing shallow and weak. The paralysis was spreading through his body as his bioenhancement systems continued to fail. His vital signs are getting worse, Elena whispered, checking her portable scanner. We have maybe 4 hours before complete systems shut down. Private Chen led them through a maze of maintenance corridors. She had memorized during her months at the outpost. The passages were narrow and filled with pipes, cables, and ventilation equipment. Moving the heavy stretcher through these tight spaces was like trying to thread a needle in the dark. Security patrol coming. Corporal Kim warned from his position at the rear. He could hear footsteps echoing through the main corridors above them. The team froze, holding their breath as the patrol passed overhead. Maria's heart pounded so loudly she was sure everyone could hear it. After what felt like an eternity, the footsteps faded away. Clear, Kim whispered. They continued their slow, careful journey through the underground passages. Every few hundred feet, they had to stop and maneuver around obstacles. The stretcher's wheels kept catching on pipe joints and cable runs, forcing them to lift and carry Commander Sci-Fi's weight manually, halfway to the docking bay. Disaster struck. As they rounded a corner, one of the stretcher's wheels hit a loose floor panel. The sudden jolt caused Commander Sci-Fi to groan in pain, even in his unconscious state. Did we hurt him? Maria asked frantically. Elena quickly checked her readings. His nervous system is still responding to pain, which is actually good news. But we need to be more careful. Any major shock could cause his remaining systems to shut down completely. Above them, they heard the sound of running feet. Someone had heard the noise and was investigating. Security teams were mobilizing, their boots thundering through the corridors as they searched for the source of the disturbance. They know something's wrong, Chen said, her face pale with worry. We need to move faster. The team picked up their pace, but the urgency made them clumsy. The stretcher bumped and scraped against the tunnel walls, each impact making them wince. Commander Sci-Fi's condition was deteriorating with every passing minute. When they finally reached the docking bay access point, Chen's face fell. The security system has been upgraded, she said, staring at a new electronic lock panel. This wasn't here yesterday. Can you bypass it? Maria asked desperately. Chen studied the system for a few precious minutes. Maybe, but it will take time. And if I make a mistake, it will trigger an immediate alarm. How much time? Elena asked, checking Commander Sci-Fi's weakening pulse. At least 20 minutes, Chen replied. Elena shook her head grimly. He doesn't have 20 minutes. His bioenhancement systems are cascading into failure. We need to get him to his ship's medical equipment now. Maria looked at her team, these brave people who had risked everything based on her word that it was the right thing to do. They had come so far, sacrificed so much, and now they were trapped just meters away from their goal. There has to be another way, she said. Chen looked up at the ceiling, then at the walls around them. There's one option, she said slowly. The emergency airlock system has a manual override, but someone would have to go outside and open the docking bay doors from the external controls. That's incredibly dangerous, Elena said. The radiation levels from the recent solar storm are still elevated. Anyone going outside would be exposed to potentially lethal doses. How long would it take? Maria asked. maybe 10 minutes to suit up and reach the external controls, Chen said. But the person doing it might not survive the radiation exposure. Before anyone could argue, Chen was already moving toward the emergency equipment locker. I'm the smallest and fastest, she said. Simply, I can get there quicker than anyone else, Chen. No, Kim protested. Let me do it. You don't know the external systems like I do, Chen replied, pulling on a radiation suit. Keep him alive. I'll get those doors open. As Chen disappeared into the airlock, Maria knelt beside Commander Sci-Fi. His amber eyes had opened, but they looked distant and unfocused. Maria, he whispered weakly, I can feel my life slipping away if this fails. I want you to know that your courage has shown me something I never understood before. Don't talk like that, Maria said. Chen is going to get us through this. What have I shown you? She asked, trying to keep him talking and conscious. That true strength isn't about being the best warrior or following the strongest leader, Sci-Fi said. Softly, it's about choosing to help someone when you have nothing to gain and everything to lose. Outside the outpost, Chen was fighting against time and radiation. The external docking controls were located on an exposed platform where the solar radiation was at its strongest, even through her protective suit. She could feel the dangerous energy trying to penetrate her shielding. Her hand shook as she worked to manually override the massive bay doors. The controls were stiff and difficult to operate, designed for emergency use by maintenance robots, not humans in bulky radiation suits. Come on, she muttered through gritted teeth, forcing the manual release lever to turn. Inside the maintenance tunnel, alarms suddenly began blaring throughout the outpost. Security teams had found their access point and were cutting through Chen's electronic barriers. They're coming, Kim reported, his weapon ready. Elena watched her medical readouts with growing despair. His life signs are critical. We're losing him. Just when all hope seemed lost, the massive docking bay doors began to slowly grind open. Chen had succeeded, but at what cost? The Kithra ship sat waiting in the pressurized atmosphere of the docking bay, its smooth hull reflecting the emergency lighting. But between them and the ship, security forces were already taking positions. Colonel Mitchell's voice boomed through the bay's communication system. Sergeant Santos, you are surrounded. This ends now. Maria looked at her unconscious alien friend, then at her brave team members who had risked everything for a stranger. They had come too far to give up now. Together, she said quietly, together, they began the final push toward the ship, knowing that the hardest part of their mission was just beginning. Inside Commander Sci-Fi's ship, Maria felt like she had entered a living dream. The walls pulsed with soft, organic light, and the air itself seemed to hum with life energy. Everything was beautiful but completely alien, designed for beings much larger and stronger than humans. The medical base should be this way, Elena said, reading from a translation device she had grabbed from the Outpost Alien Studies lab. Even with her research, being inside an actual Kethra vessel was overwhelming. They found the regeneration chamber deep in the ship's heart. It looked like a giant crystal cocoon, its transparent walls swirling with patterns of blue and green. Light that seemed almost alive. Beautiful and mysterious, it represented their only hope. The technology is beyond anything I've ever seen, Elena whispered, running her hands over the smooth control surfaces. But I have to somehow connect our medical equipment to systems I barely understand. Outside the ship, Colonel Mitchell was shouting orders to his troops. They had surrounded the vessel completely, but international law prevented them from boarding without permission. As long as the team remained on Kethra territory, even the colonel had to be careful. How long before Maria couldn't finish the question. Elena looked at Commander Sci-Fi's failing life signs on her human scanner. Minutes, maybe less. His enhanced biology is shutting down in cascade failure. If we don't start the regeneration process immediately, we'll lose him. Working with desperate speed, Elena began connecting human monitoring equipment to the alien regeneration pod. Cables and wires snaked between the two technologies, like bridges connecting different worlds. I need to understand how his biology works, Elena said, sweat beading on her forehead despite the cool air. The regeneration process has to be perfectly calibrated to his specific physiology, or it could make him worse instead of better. What can I do? Maria asked. Elena pointed to two glowing panels on the pod's surface. The ship's computer needs to scan human neural patterns to translate the medical procedures into something I can understand. Place your hands here. Maria pressed her palms against the warm, living metal. Immediately, her mind flooded with images, complex biological processes, cellular regeneration patterns, the intricate dance of millions of tiny organisms working to heal and enhance Kethver physiology. I can see it, Maria said in amazement. The enhancement organisms in his body, they're like tiny biological machines. But they're completely confused. The neural weapons scrambled their programming. Can you help me guide them back to normal function? Elena asked, her fingers dancing across both human and alien controls. Together, they worked to restore Commander Sci-Fi's biological systems. It was like performing surgery on a microscopic level, guiding millions of confused organisms back to their life-giving purpose. Kim and Chen stood guard at the ship's entrance. Chen looked exhausted from her radiation exposure, but she refused to rest. The security forces aren't trying to board, Kim reported, but they're not leaving either. Hours passed in intense concentration. Elena and Maria worked as one mind, human medical knowledge combining with alien technology in ways that had never been attempted. Commander Sci-Fi lay in the regeneration pod, his body surrounded by healing light that grew brighter as the process continued. Something's happening, Elena said excitedly, watching her scanners. His neural pathways are starting to reconnect. The enhancement organisms are rebuilding the connections that were destroyed. Maria watched in wonder as tiny sparks of electrical activity began firing through Commander Sci-Fi's spine. The bioenhancement systems were slowly coming back online, repairing damage that human medicine couldn't even understand, let alone treat. Will it work? Maria asked, afraid to hope. We're in completely uncharted territory. Elena said honestly, no one has ever attempted anything like this before. As dawn broke over Mars, casting red light through the docking bay windows, the regeneration process finally completed. The pod's lights gradually dimmed, and the swirling patterns in its walls slowed to a gentle pulse. Commander Sci-Fi lay motionless inside, his eyes closed, for a terrifying moment. Maria thought they had failed. Commander, she called softly. Slowly, miraculously, his amber eyes opened. They were clear and alert, focused on Maria's face with recognition and gratitude. Can you move? Elena asked, her scanner showing readings she could barely believe. Commander Sci-Fi concentrated, and his right hand slowly closed into a fist, then his left. He raised both arms and carefully sat up in the pod, his movements cautious but strong. The paralysis is gone, he said in wonder, looking at his hands, as if seeing them for the first time. How is this possible? Human determination combined with alien science, Maria said with a tired but genuine smile. Their celebration was interrupted by Admiral Hayes' voice over the communication system. She had arrived from Earth specifically to handle the situation. Sergeant Santos, you and your team will surrender immediately for court-martial proceedings. This is not a request. Maria looked at her friends, Elena exhausted from the complex medical procedure, Chen weak from radiation exposure but smiling, Kim standing ready to face whatever consequences awaited them. They had saved a life and possibly changed the course of history between two species. I will not let you face this alone, Commander Sci-Fi said, slowly standing from the regeneration pod. His movements were careful but confident. You risked everything to save me. Now I will stand with you to face whatever comes next. The court-martial was unlike anything in military history. Media from across human space covered the trial of the soldiers, who had defied orders to save an alien life. Public opinion was divided. Some called them heroes, others traitors. The turning point came when Commander Sci-Fi, still recovering but determined, addressed the tribunal via holographic link. He revealed crucial intelligence he had overheard during his paralysis. Plans for separatist attacks that could destroy the fragile peace between species. more importantly, word of the rescue had reached the Kethra homeworld. High Commander Velthar, witnessing humans risk everything to save a paralyzed warrior, began questioning the honor codes that would have left Sci-Fi to die. A revolution in thinking was beginning among his people. Elena's medical breakthrough became the foundation for revolutionary advances in treating spinal injuries for both humans and Kethra. Her research saved countless lives and proved that cooperation between species could benefit everyone. Maria was given a choice: accept discharge from military service or lead a new joint human Kethra medical unit designed to prevent future tragedies. She chose service, becoming the first human officer in an integrated interspecies military organization. 6 months later, Maria and Commander Sci-Fi stood together on the observation deck of a new joint research station. Ships from both species worked side by side, building something hopeful among the stars. "Do you ever regret what happened?" Sci-Fi asked, watching the cooperative work through the transparent windows. Maria thought about everything: the fear, the risks, the consequences, and the incredible reward of seeing two civilizations learn to work together. "Never," she said. "That day taught me what it really means to be human. It's not about following orders or protecting only your own kind. It's about recognizing courage and honor wherever you find it, even in someone completely different from yourself." Commander Sci-Fi nodded slowly. "And you taught me that true strength isn't measured by what you can destroy in battle, but by what you're willing to sacrifice to preserve life." As they watched the ships working together in the vast darkness of space, both knew that sometimes the most important victories come not from conquest, but from refusing to abandon those who need help, no matter how different they might be.